Yeah,
If you don't, it does 1 hour. Okay.
probably, eh?
Yeah, we do that with the elder care. She gives it 2 hours.
We will check with staff offline and
We're streaming live now.
there we are.
And as per my previous comments, we are neophytes at this. So to go
Yes.
virtually now, I don't think it's appropriate. But when and if we can, I think it's important to get community feedback.
Absolutely. I'll just find my agenda again. So
Can I
thank you. Go ahead, Christine.
So I was just gonna say that, like, a new member of council is, I'd really like to get my feet wet with information, the next couple months. And then, go to a public forum, whether it's in person, whether we're allowed or by Zoom. But I think this engagement, what we're doing now, is important for us to build up something that we can deliver to the residents and get their input and suggestions and whatnot. So
Thank you very much. Councilor Omaka, I think I saw your hand go up, did I not?
Was that before we got cut off?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I had your
it
name on the
was.
paper.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think that before the community engagement, probably best that we wait for the strategic planning questionnaire to come back.
Correct. All right. Okay, yeah, good feedback. Is anybody else on that? Okay, which will lead us to the next item, which is a good example of community engagement. So we have a great questionnaire. Just a question, when was it created and has it ever been distributed before my time?
It was, if I may, it was created last fall, early fall, and it hasn't gone out to the public, no.
Okay. So
If you've got changes that you propose, then this is probably the good time to do it.
all right. Before we get too far ahead of myself here, then, Council, do you see any questions that you'd like to see added to this document before we discuss distribution and how? Don't see any hands. So just a comment to staff. It has been mentioned that documents such as this might be able to be distributed by free in the mail. I don't know if you've investigated that, or maybe if not, maybe if this is such an important document to helping guide us forward, that we could, I know it's around $250 to $300 to distribute this by mail instead of just putting it on a website, just to ensure it gets in the hands of everybody in the town. So I'll just put that out there. And if council has any comments, Councillor Sandhu.
could we put it in our billing when we do our water and sewer? Like, I know that's the beginning of February. Could we not put that questionnaire into the envelope and distribute it that way?
Yeah.
Then every household, then there's not an extra cost.
Right.
Good one. Thank you, Councillor Austin.
Yes, because I was going to say quite a few people that get their mail in Lake Howatch don't actually live within the town. So we would be putting them in the mail for people that don't actually live within the town. So I think it's better to put it in with the water and sewer, the tax notice, whatever's the next one. The water sewer is the next one up. So that's February.
No, that's this month, end of this month.
End of this month. So we could put it in there. Can that go in? That was just
Yeah.
one more piece of paper. And give them 30 days to return it, give them 30 days to bring it in, give them a whole month.
And if I may add on to that, is this document fillable online as well?
It is, yes.
Okay, so we could distribute it throughout Route 2 with a button on our website as well and a
Yeah.
Facebook post. So hit all the avenues of
Yeah.
getting it out there. That's great. And just as a point to note as well, I learned that in the election process that you can stipulate where the mail goes by postal code. So you just tell them you want town of Lake Cowichan proper, and they can get that mail delivered solely to the residents of Lake Cowichan now. So in the past, I know that may not have been possible, but now they're able to do that. So just so we're all aware of that. Yeah, I like the questionnaire myself, and so maybe Mr. Fernandez, if we could give council till the end of this week, just in case they come up with any valuable additions, and then you could move forward on getting it out there.
Now, the
Getting it ready.
the one suggestion was 30 days for submission. Do we want to put a date on it by which these should be brought back?
I see some heads nodding, so yes. Does 30 days sound reasonable, everybody? Yeah, so staff could pick a future date 30 days after distribution.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I guess somebody's going to have to compile all this data. Yeah, so that'll take some time afterwards, but we'll talk about that when we get close to the due date,
Okay.
if that works for you guys. Okay, I'm looking forward to seeing the answers on there. And I expect we'll all learn something that we didn't know already. That's great. All right. So that leads to item D, if anybody doesn't have anything more to add there. Councilor McGonigal.
I think it's going to be interesting looking at the questionnaire, and particularly I'll go down to improved services come at an increased cost. Are you willing to pay for those? I think a lot of people have wishes and desires, whether it be sidewalks or any other service that is provided by the town of Lake Cowichan, thinking that there is no impending cost to the taxpayer. And we have two choices. We can either increase taxation to provide those services or decrease services. So there is an impact one way or the other. And I think you have to take that into consideration. I think it's going to be interesting to see some of the comments in there on whether people are willing to pay for the improvements that they suggest. It's always a difficult balancing act on providing the wishes and needs of the community within a highly residential based tax base, and no other source except for user fees for funds to come into a municipality. And all municipalities struggle with that, how to balance services and desires of citizens in the community. So it'll be interesting to see some of those.
Thank you very much, Councilor McGonigal. There was one question that I thought could be given consideration for this questionnaire, but maybe not. But I've just found it in my notes. And one question that I thought of a week ago was, would you be in favor of the town of Lake Cowichan borrowing money for large infrastructure projects? And I know that the public would have to approve any large amounts of borrowing, but that was just a question that was curious in my mind. Wondering if that's a valuable question to put towards the public.
We can add that.
Council, any thoughts on that question? I don't want to suggest it and just say carte blanche, put it on. Councilor Bomaka.
Yep, absolutely a great question to put on there. I know it was brought forward probably in the past 2 years too, as to whether people wanted us to borrow money. So even though everybody's wish list is to have everything done, when it comes to borrowing, it would be nice to see how many residents would like us to be able to do that, and goes back to the questions too, which is how much are you willing to pay in your taxes. So I think that's a great question to add.
Yeah, and by no means do I want to add that to give us a permission to just go ahead
No,
and talk
no.
about borrowing a bunch of money, but it just give us an interesting view into what the taxpayers are thinking.
Yeah, to gauge their response.
As well, it may be a real cheap time to borrow money now. We don't know what next year is going to be like, or we don't all have crystal balls that accurate. So, but something to think about, and I think it'd be fair to ask the taxpayers to think about that question too. Okay, thank you very much on that. So we have these meetings, and but first I think we need to maybe do a day or two session, or a 4-hour session spaced out over a week, something like that. I know an all-day session, if we can't meet in a certain spot and have lunch and get up and walk around, that it might be a little much to ask everybody to sit in their homes for 8 hours in front of a computer screen. So, so any thoughts on how we would like to sit down and all put our heads together and hammer out some form, rough copy of a strategic plan? Councillor Sandhu?
Under the COVID guidelines, could we not meet at the CLEC? You know, under the safety protocol, it's a big enough facility, and where we could have a planning session. I think honestly, do one day, and we could get through all our managers, give them a 2-hour time frame to give their presentation and whatnot, and then I'd rather wrap it up in one full day myself. But
Okay, Councillor Austin.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. We could take our own lunches and beverages, or we can whip into the kitchen and make coffee or something like that. It is a big facility. There's lots of room. People are going out to lunch right now and doing things. There's quite a few people that are doing things like that. So I don't see a problem with that at all, as long as the managers are happy with that as well.
Councillor McGonigal.
And some people think we're all out to lunch, Councillor Austin, but that being said, okay, a little levity, come on. I think if we get through the budget process and we'll have an inkling of what the strategic plan of some of the managers are on the capital projects that they bring forward, I think that we look at a strategic planning session in person at the CLEC after the budget process. So if you look at the agenda for tonight, we're waiting on the strategic planning questionnaire, for instance. That'll give us some feedback for that meeting. So whether or not we need the strategic plan agenda every month at this time may be questionable until we have the seed planted. Then moving forward, we could implement more precise agenda continuity, for instance. But if once we gather all that information, then move forward into the strategic planning session that we're talking about with those managers on their long-term vision, because we're going to have an idea what their short-term is through the capital budget process. And that'll be this year's input that we receive. So I'm looking at 5, 10, 15 years down the road. What is the strategic plan for not only the town of Lake Cowichan, but also the surrounding area, and what impacts that would have?
Okay, anybody else? So I would like to at this time introduce another thought at this portion of the meeting. Was many of our neighboring municipalities use the services of a consultant to help them with their strategic plan. It's always interesting to have a third party come in and guide the group through, rather than a councillor or a mayor or a staff member be the chair of that session. They seem to have a special way of pulling thoughts out of a group and compiling them and making a report at the end of it all. And I know that for a fact that Ladysmith paid $15,000 at one time. I don't know if ours would be that expensive, but certainly something staff could look into if everybody felt that would be a good way forward. I'm a big proponent of using facilitators and things like this, but you folks may not be. So I'd like to hear any thoughts you have there. Councillor Sandu.
Well, I would rather have a professional kind of guide us through the process and then have it done properly and professionally than just a kind of a round table over and over and then just something. I'd rather have somebody that can actually take us through each step. And that's what they specialize in, so.
Yep, I agree.
So that's two people. Councillor McGonigal, your thoughts on that?
And I would just caution that we be very precise as to what we want in the RFP, that we don't want a 300-page document.
No.
We are not the Cowichan Valley Regional District with 178 different functions that need to be all strategized into moving forward. That all we're looking for is a template to move our town towards our strategic vision. And it doesn't have to be a large document per se. It can be very visionary and directive on what not only us, but future councils may look at building strategically within our community. So I think we have to be very clear on what our intentions are for any consultant that we do move forward with, very precise as to what the directive is. He may or she may have some suggestions on that process, whether it could be virtual or in person perhaps.
Okay, Councillor McGonigal, I will come back to you in a moment just with a parting question after we talk to Councillor Vomaka.
Thank you. Question to our CAO is, made of your opinion that maybe we can use the resources of our town planner. I don't know what his expertise is in that, but I'm just posing the question to you. And you'll have to unmute.
I guess that is a solution, but at the end of the day, it may be well to look at an independent consultant, somebody who may not know the community as well and who is not biased, whereas, staff and including the contract planner would have their own notions of what should be in the long-term plan. So I think it would be better if you have somebody from outside listening to everybody and then formulate their own, strategic plan for the town.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. So one of the names that I've heard amongst other municipalities is the person by the name of Jerry Berry. I think it's Jerry Berry Consulting. So I've seen his work in the past in other communities and in lots of other topics too, as well as strategic planning. So that could be a starting point. And I don't know if we need to look at a $15,000 price tag, but is this something that'd be okay for us to give direction to staff to investigate the budgeted cost for something that we could consider? And Councillor McGonigal, I was going to ask you, was this be appropriate to set the parameters at the next strategic planning meeting and talk about the parameters of what we're looking for as a council?
I think our CAO knows basically what our intentions are as council. I think it would be appropriate for him to write the RFP or the request for quotes. But
Okay.
if I can also suggest that we reach out to the regional district and see who they utilized for their consultant on their process. I believe that was a very long one, but again, you can be very precise on what our intent is moving forward. So get a couple of consultant suggestions from various communities and then move forward.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. I'm happy that we all agree on that process because it works well. And so we'll take it from there, and we'll have a report back hopefully by next strategic planning meeting and see where that goes. And I agree with Councilor McGonigal's suggestion. We may not have to do these meetings every month until we actually get into having an actual plan, and we'll figure it out from there. So thank you very much for that discussion. So notices of motion. Do we have any? No hands. Public relations, any items, anybody? Anybody think of anything? No. Nobody has any exciting meetings coming up? All right. Question period. So we'll give the CEO 3 minutes to check the
I've
emails.
got the answer for you. It's not.
Oh, you are getting the hang of this, sir. Thank you very much. All right. So the next session is in camera. Mr. CEO, your
Yes.
comments.
I'll read the section that applies to that portion of the meeting. Section 92 of the Community Charter requires that before a meeting or part of a meeting is closed to the public, council needs to state by resolution why the meeting is to be closed. And the meeting is closed because of the following: Section 91K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of municipal service that are the preliminary stages, and that in the view of the council could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public.
Thank you very much.
I would move that we go on camera.
Seconded by Councillor Sandhu. Any discussion there? All those in
Just,
favor? Whoops, sorry.
If
Go ahead,
we
Councilor McGonigal.
end this meeting and then get a separate invite, or are you going?
Yes, we'll
Okay.
close the meeting, yes.
Okay, and wait for a separate invite.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. So it'll probably be 3 to 5 minutes, so you get another chance to stretch your legs. So
Okay.
all those in favor of adjournment and moving into camera? Opposed? Seeing none, motion carried. Thank you very much, everybody. See you shortly.
Okay, bye-bye. You will have to, yeah.
7:30.
What time is it?